Welcome to part two, where we're going to be looking at creating that painterly style, this time in Photoshop. You've seen the first edit of what we've done in Lightroom. So I'm just going to really edit this image how I naturally would and hopefully explain to you guys exactly what I'm doing and what I'm looking for. I think my editing has been described as a little bit chaotic because I do get distracted and go, oh, let's go edit that. Let's go over here. Let's go do this. So hopefully you can follow along. But I don't think this image already needs too much. There's only a couple of things that I'm going to do to really enhance it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start by using my patch tool, and I'm going to go through and I look at the background for any areas. So like this mark down here distracts me. I'm going to go get a little bit of that hair there. There's a dust spot on my camera. We'll get that bit. I'll just have a look, see if there's anything in particular that is kind of bugging me. Overall, that's quite happy. There's not really much there that's bugging me from that. There's a couple of things. So there's a little hair here. Now I can just select that. We'll move that out the way. And we'll do the same on here. So I'm happy. I think that's quite nice. Next thing I will do is almost always hair. I like to neaten up hair. So there's a couple of hairs, as we can see. There's some annoying hairs down here that I'm actually going to let content aware help me with. So first thing I'll do is I'll take the brightest bit and I'll content aware that out. Now, for any of you who don't know what I'm doing, I'm selecting this section with my patch tool. I'm actually hitting the delete button on my keyboard. It comes up with this box and I've already got content aware selected. So I just hit enter, which means for me, I can just hit delete, enter, delete, enter. Now, I always have a rule. If you are cheating, meaning if you are getting a robot to do any of the work you should be doing, if you cheat it, check it, because it's a robot. It can decide that that's going to be the best edit, and it's not. So make sure you keep an eye. You don't just randomly click. So I'm going to keep that down there. See, it's added an extra bit for me because it's not intelligent enough. And I'm going to just take these hairs off this way. Now, I always say you want to style as much as you can when you're actually in camera, but these odd hairs, little bits like this, without a full professional hair and makeup team, it is borderline impossible for you to see every single one. So it's quite crucial, you know, how to edit these off as you need to. Let's take that one off there. I'm just basically content aware in all of these now. Anything that's I'm finding distracting. I don't want to take off all the hair because really I want it to be natural. Now, I don't like this whole loop here, so let's see how it does. I'm going to take that bit first. I don't give it the whole section. All it's doing is it's looking for other areas to take it from. So I'll give it this, and I know that content aware is going to use down here. So if I select that and do that, it has done. And I'm just going to build that up in sections. If I skip ahead and try and get it to select the whole area, usually it will get confused and you end up with an extra eye on that side, which isn't good. So I always think, do it right the first time rather than trying to fix the problems. Have a look. That's almost there, really. At this point, it's got doing such a good job of what I'm selecting. I'm happy with that. I think that's done reasonably good. Let's take that one section out. Let's look at these hairs down here. Now that one's annoying. Apart from that, I think everything's looking good. So the next thing I'm going to do is I always address lines on the neck. Now we all have them, they're quite natural, but I do think they kind of cut the images in half. They're good to soften, but remove, soften, whatever. The way I do this is I will use my layers. So I'll actually duplicate my layer and I will put my top layer on 50%, which means anything that I'm doing to this layer is only happening half. So if I do a patch tool over the eye, I'm only getting half the eye come through. If I put that on 100%, you can see the entire thing. Now, we definitely don't want that there. That would look ridiculous. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the line, drag it down to a similar part of the skin, and it's going to only be there half as much. So I'm not removing it, I'm just softening it. And if I carry this on the neck, following along the lines with the same amount of skin, the same type of skin, it'll be very different if I start taking it from up here. I'm going to get a very weird texture. So I'm keeping it consistent. I turn that layer on and off now. You'll see that that whole area is a lot softer. I'm going to bring that even down, more soft there. Now, if I put that on 100%, it's going to be very, very patchy. We're only working on 50% here because we want it to blend. If I feel like I need to do that some more, I can do the same thing again. Another layer, 50%, and just drag that down. I don't think it necessarily needed this much, but I think that's looking nice. That works. So next thing is I'll go in and I look if there's anything to correct. So eye squiggles, let's get rid of eye squiggles. I'm just going to use my content aware and my patch tool again. These are my favorite tools. And oh, that didn't do a good job. If I'm cheating it, I've got to check it. So let's take that off. Pull that across, and I'll do it manually because people are better than robots. Perfect. And I'm happy with that. I think that looks good. So using the same technique on a 50% layer, I'm going to just soften some areas of the skin, just grabbing the skin and taking it along the same way. Now, Francesca's skin here doesn't need a lot of softening. It doesn't need a lot of work. It's beautiful anyway. All I'm doing is taking out any kind of distracting texture where the light might have caught on the skin. So really it doesn't need a lot. Coming in from there, let's pull that bit from here as well. And just pull those in. There we go. Slightly softer on the skin, 50%. I'm happy that's looking nice. Now, I want to play with my contour. Let's add a little bit of contour. So what I'm going to do, I am going to bring in a new layer. Now, by hitting Control Shift N, I will get this command box for a new layer. And I'm going to put it on soft light. When I put it on soft light, it's going to give me the option for a 50% grey layer. I'm going to tick that, click OK, and I get this 50% grey layer here. Now, using my dodge tool, which is on midtones at 20%, I'm going to draw in a little bit of highlights wherever I want them. Now, this takes some practice, this takes some getting used to, because it doesn't look like I'm doing a lot in the beginning. But then as we go on and as we start looking back, it's going to look like I'm doing a lot more. So I'm just bringing up anything for highlights. Now, I'm going to now change to my burn tool, which is going to also be on midtones at 20%. And this is where I'm going to enhance any shadow areas that I want to bring in. So I'm going to bring in cheekbones, jawline, anything around here. Now, the best tip for this is follow the lighting that already exists. You should have done exactly this lighting in the studio or looked for it with your natural light, whatever it is you're doing. You should have already been there doing this. If I try and shadow her cheek, it's going to get very weird because that is already a highlight. So if I pull this out, it doesn't feel like I've done a lot, does it? And yet, watch as I turn this off and on. How drastically different is that? Now, I think that's really cool. Now, we've got a really harsh line down this cheek that I'm going to bring in. But the reason I don't mind going harsh is because the next step is changing the opacity. That's quite intense where we are now. And I'm going to bring this down to just a little bit here, about 50%. Turning that off and on. It's just enough. Just enhancing that facial features a little bit. And I think that's looking nice. So I've flattened my layer. So looking at that, I'm quite happy. I think that's all looking really, really nice. I like that. I'm thinking I might want to add a little bit more texture into this. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a cheat. It's my own cheat, but you're welcome to give it a go. Duplicate my layer, go to filter, and I'm going to render some clouds, because why would you not want to render some clouds? And it comes up with this horrific pattern. Now, what I want to do with that, I'm going to actually change the layer to soft light. And that means I'm going to be able to see that image through it. And I'm then going to use this pattern, but I want the pattern to be a bit bigger. So if I click Control T to transform, I've got 100% here. Well, let's change that to 300%. And suddenly that pattern's a lot bigger. I can go to 500% if I want to. It's even bigger again. Let's go. I like 5. Let's go to 5. And we're going to tick the box, and it's going to give us that. Now, what I'm going to do is I can move that round if I want to. I can reposition it wherever I want. I want to put that in the background. So there's a nice little hack that they've added into Photoshop at the moment. You can do this just with a mask, draw it in if that's what you want to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select my background layer and click my little select subject button down here. And then I'm going to let the computer do its AI magic. And it does this little spinny wheel while it figures out all the edges and where she is and the hair and everything like that. Comes with a little box. And once I've done that, it will give me a nice outline selection there we go, perfect. So now that it has selected my subject and you can see the little walking hands all the way around, I'm going to click on my other layer again and hit mask. And it's going to put a mask that actually is the wrong way around. So because my mask is the wrong way around, I'm going to hit Control I. And now I have a mask basically in the background with this texture on to add that painterly feel. Now it's a bit intense for me, so personally I'm gonna turn it down so it's just a little bit. There we go. That's quite nice. Just adds a little bit of texture, a little bit of something. Especially nice for plain backgrounds, simple backgrounds. But I like that. I think that's quite nice. We're all good in there. Overall, I'm quite happy. I think that looks good. Let's have a look in our history. Let's go back. So where we started, nice image. What we've finished with, we've just refined it, just that little bit. And I feel like we've got that painterly kind of vibe with the combination of the lighting, the editing, that little bit of contour, and of course our fantastic model. So thanks for joining us. I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you next time.